This is an interim video of a longer one that I'm making. The reason I'm putting it out is it's taken me a lot longer than what I thought it would, just formatting all the presentation, and also I want to do a Substack article, an accompanying Substack article, but I'm just finding that it's taken me such a long time and I want to get information out. So this is just an interim. There's more to come on this. So this is the article. So is the Australian Electoral Commission stepping up for the yes vote? So the AEC will perform three major functions in the upcoming voice referendum. So the first one, before the referendum, they have to print and put out the pamphlet. So I've got pamphlet duties there. Then, of course, there's a polling. Look, people know all this, but when you're putting together an article and you're building up an argument, you need to put in all the foundations first. So I'm just going to keep running through it. The final stage is vote counting, collection and tallying of ballots and postal votes. And I'll just say this gets very interesting, so please hang in there. So the Electoral Commission's pamphlet duties, it's broken down into basically four requirements and a function. So the pamphlet content that's printed by the AEC and distributed, it has to be authorised by a majority of members of the Parliament on either side, the yes or no side. They won't print up anything else. Now, it can't be more than 2,000 words, which makes sense if it's a pamphlet. And the last requirement is that the content to make up the pamphlet has to be provided to the AEC within 4 weeks of the bill passes. So the bill's already passed, so they had 28 days to get the pamphlet, to get the information to the AEC. So if it's authorised material, they get it within 28 days, and it's less than 2,000 words, they organise, design, print and distribute the pamphlets. So people, please hang in there. People might be asking, well, why is the Mayor showing us all this? It's sort of a bit interesting maybe, but do I really need to know it? Well, yeah, because look, there have been 44 prior referendums, and the AEC's had no problems at all. Never heard of any problems with getting the pamphlets out. So in May, the AEC Commissioner, I'll just introduce him, his name's Tom Rogers, he gave details on the yes and no pamphlets. What is he doing at a Senate hearing? This is just routine stuff. Was he going to go there and tell what he had for lunch? Now, obviously, the Commissioner felt it necessary. He had to inform the senators the routine pamphlet duties were a large-scale, complex operation. I mean, what a lot of junk mail you've received from corporations over the decades. Not so much these days with the internet, but remember back in the 70s and 80s, there'd be people wandering everywhere. All those effectively are pamphlets. Some of their brochures were really, they had models in them, and they had, pictures of fridges and everything, and really packaged stuff, and they managed to do it every day. But the AEC starting to find, only 2,000 words too. So it's not like he's printed up a 5,000-page manuscript. So you're probably wondering why I was showing all those criteria before, how simple they are. Well, they're stringent requirements. I wouldn't say they're stringent, 2,000 words, 28 days. I can think of a lot more stringent, in a lot of my workplace scenarios than that. Provision of the text of the pamphlets, which could leave the Electoral Commission unable to print both cases if camps don't comply. Has that ever happened before? I mean, how is that now a possibility at this Senate hearing? So the Tom then starts to say what's on the website. I mean, why is he repeating it? He's come to a Senate hearing. Well, that information's already available. Shouldn't senators, make it their business to know these types of things, especially when a referendum's coming up? No, he's making that no council will have 28 days to provide their pamphlets, printed up in the Canberra Times. So the commish trusted Tom, that's what I call him a bit later on, some of the graphics. So if one of those cases doesn't arrive here, what does he say? If one or both, we won't print up any? We'll be printing up one case, but not the other. Now, I've gone way out on a limb here. I mean, this is just so unlikely. I mean, look, it could never happen, but I've just got a prediction. One of the pamphlets will not be published. Which one might that be? How could those requirements... Oh, no, wait, they're stringent. They're stringent, so there's a possibility. The next part of the video is, could the no pamphlet miss the deadline? And they obviously ran this article, who are the main no groups of, the authorised parliamentarians. So there's basically two organisations. There are others, but these are the ones that I come across. They seem to be the main push with parliamentarians in them. So the first one's Recognise a Better Way, and they've got a website. It's easy to find, and that's Warren Mundine. I think he's a former politician. He's joined by parliamentarians, so these are people that are in it at the moment, Barnaby Joyce and Pauline Hanson. There's a few others as well. I think Matt Canavan might be there as well. The other one is Fair Australia. Now, she was with the original one, but she's now gone off with Fair Australia. And she's still good, though. She's Indigenous herself, and she's really rallying the Indigenous population behind the no vote. There's lots of information on both Fair Australia and Recognise a Better Ways website, but I'm not going to go through all that here. Just to highlight the two main arguments. Now, the first one is, and this has been highlighted by everyone, is that there's a lack of detail in the form and function of the voice. That's a major reason for the no vote. And the second major reason, this goes a lot deeper than just racial division, but that's for another video, but they want to divide people between Indigenous and Australians in the Constitution. I mean, as if there isn't enough division already. I cannot stand those welcome to country surveys, ceremonies at football games and that. Oh, they make me sick. I'm already here. I don't need to be welcomed. It's the young kids that are really brainwashing, trying to make out like, no, you're illegitimate. No, you see, your mum and dad, your ancestors and your grandfathers, well, they came here after the ancestors of someone else that's sitting next to you. So because their ancestors were here before yours, see how ridiculous this is? All right, now here's where the wheels start to fall off the no campaign. Lydia Thorpe is supporting a no vote. That's what she says. And is vying to be one of the parliamentarians that authorises the no pamphlet. Again, reported in another article on the ABC. See there? So she says, absolutely, I'm there. I'm looking forward to it. Now, she does, make mention of trouble ahead, troubled waters. She says there's prior conflict with other parliamentarians. So she was Greens up until this. That's how she got into the parliament, on the Greens ticket. Now she's an independent. And she's now not with the Greens because they're going yes. And she's saying, well, I'm saying no. But is she, though? But anyway, she's got there. We're going to have to sit in a room with people that don't ordinarily agree with or get along. Oh, that might be fertile ground for mayhem. Now, Senator Thorpe's reasons for voting no differ greatly. In fact, I'd say diametrically opposed to the other no campaigns that she's supposedly going to be working with. Now, she's part of this black, sometimes spelt with a C, sometimes not, black sovereign movement, BSM I call it, has said no to the voice. And here's what they want instead. In the small print there, they want more concrete actions. The BSM has adopted the position, made this statement, that the voice is a weak proposition. This article on SBS over NITV articles. So BSM reject constitutional changes. They want treaties and Aboriginal sovereignty, which are goals of the Uluru Statement, ultimately. So in actual fact, their position is they want the yes outcomes, but they're claiming that the way they're going about it isn't right. It needs to be more concrete. So they're more extreme. And they reject the Constitution changes they want. Well, what does it matter if the Constitution changes if what they want they supposedly are going to get in another manner or in the future constitutional changes? What do they care about these ones if they need to either change the Constitution down the track or in another means? You notice at the top, maybe you haven't, I've got MT Sentinel because I'm going to be publishing these in video format and as PDFs and on the Substack as articles under the MT Sentinel, but I will always be putting the information up on MT Post, so there won't be anything on the other channels that won't be here. So you'll get everything here. It's just that I sort of enjoy myself here and I say things that aren't going to be in the article. So I think I'm going to say now is, so they got the claim, the voice is in violation of ancient protocols. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I know, their entire, we'll just say, their literary skills was just paintings on cave walls. They never had an alphabet. How many different languages was there that they spoke? Was there an alphabet? Were there any written words? So there's no written protocols. So they're all verbal. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I haven't researched it, but, I've been around a long time and no one's ever mentioned it. No one's ever said, oh, here's a Aboriginal text from, 500 years ago. And they're going to say that the voice is not a self-determined body. Well, there's a bit of a problem with that because the actual form and function of the voice, they're intentionally withholding it from people until after the election. They already know what they're going to do. They're making out like, oh, we just want to get the yes and then we're going to sit down and think about what we're going to... Bullshit. Now, this is where they are actually promoting a lie. This is misinformation because... From what I've read, I'm going to put up a video on it, from documentation from the University of New South Wales, their Indigenous law group over there, they've got a document out that I'm going to do a video on, and they want self-determination. So the BSM, the Black Sovereignty Movement, and the Yes campaign, they essentially have common ambitions. of treaties and sovereignty, like dressed up as First Nations recognition in the preamble. That's already there, by the way. And a lot of constitutional laws. They tried to run that through. I put on my previous video in 1999, and a High Court judge said, no, you can't put that in there. Anyway, they're trying to get it through now. In this article from the ABC, it even confirms the ambitions are the same. So why is... so she was with the Greens on as a yes. Now she's resigned from the Greens, and she's, what some say, infiltrated the no camp. I wonder why she might do that. Let's not forget how determined she is. Here's what this article in the SBS website makes clear. So this is a lawyer. So he says we have to find a way to disconnect from that group. So they're the progressive no's. So they've even defined themselves as being different. And he's got here, the distinction is providing another battlefront. Stormy weather ahead once Lydia's over there. So there's two possible scenarios when you look back at what the roles of the AEC and you tie it into what's going on with the no camp here. So two possible scenarios regarding the no pamphlet could result from the conflict, the friction with the BSM. So unresolved disagreement, that's number one, with BSM could result in content not being produced within 28 days. They just keep arguing and arguing, and they never ever actually come up with content that they can agree on and can be sent in. So what if you've got authorised parliamentarians putting in multiple content because they can't agree, 28 days is up, let's just give it to the AEC. The AEC is going to, well, they're all authorised parliamentarians, and the combined number of words in the number of words in the combined content is more than 2,000. And remember, they were stringent requirements. And see what Lydia Thorpe is doing on the No campaign. Albanese initially tried to stop the printing of the pamphlet. I would just do it online because, a lot of, especially the elderly, they hardly get online at all. They might look at some cake recipes or something. They're not looking up the voice, but something in their mailbox. That's going to be a sizable percentage. And they're going to read through. And in the past, the No campaign of pamphlets put together, obviously No gets up a lot more than the yes. So they definitely do not want no pamphlet going out there. I think they're going to stop it, honestly. Now, the bill passed about a week or two ago. It might be even getting up to 2 weeks. I have to double check that. Is any word on the progress of the preparing the content for the pamphlets to be made up? Well, in the extremely unlikely event that, say, the No doesn't get put out, well, myself, I'm going to, and other people, they might decide they want to print their own and distribute them to people's letterboxes. So it was back in May when Tom was sitting at the Senate here and going, it's just so hard, it's onerous, it's just large and complex. What's their budget or what? How many employees have they got? How many people are sitting around there on APS 6 wages, 100 grand or more? Oh, we couldn't get the pamphlet out. Anyway, so if people decide to put out their own, well, this is now June. So Australian Electoral Commission reports what's rising social media abuse and misinformation. So Trusted Tom is worried greatly about misinformation over the voting process. Social media users spreading misinformation. It worries him greatly. Have you ever heard so much media activity about the AEC? This wasn't a Senate estimates hearing. This was just the ABC reporting. What, did the ABC approach him, or did he approach the ABC where he was really worried? What did the journo find out about it? Oh, look, Casey's really worried. We better go and speak to him. Anyway, here he is spewing all this out. So what he's talking about there, how the information environment interacts with elections around the world is changing. They actually refer in this article to what went on over in the States. I remember watching some of Ryan Dawson's videos earlier on before they got taken down. And that there were people, the same as happened here, that he mentions in this article, were just taking ballots and walking off with them. And you had other people, Republicans chasing, where are you going with that? They just wouldn't even look at them. They just took them, just went. Anyway, he says, I don't have to provide specific examples, so I'm sure you're aware of them. But we do see on our social media accounts very benign information. People coming back and suggesting some fault in the AEC process effectively without any evidence. So in other words, you can't prove a thing. Now, the fact that there's not going to be a pamphlet, well, they're in on it, but they're not specifically causing it. That's going to be caused by Lydia Thorpe. By the way, even when there's no pamphlet, I'm so confident. Oh, if there's one printed, you should be giving it to me. But look, I am so confident there's not going to be a note. They haven't gone to all this trouble with this character getting out there at Senate and Lydia Thorpe and all this carry on. I'm definitely going to be writing the no pamphlet. There's not going to be a no pamphlet. There's two reasons. I mentioned before how they don't want people, getting information, because they'd have to actually be factual. That would have to be accurate. It couldn't be all bullshit because it's printed and it's from parliamentarians. They've been obligations, so they can't put it out. But also, it gives them the opportunity, because what they're going to do is they're going to write the story like they do with all of these elections, where it's it was so close, all the polls were just in your favour, and then right at the last minute you lost. And look, the reasons you lost, one was you didn't have a no pamphlet. That was because your side was disorganised. That's going to be one of the headlines, post-referendum headlines. If they get up, we're going to try and make sure it doesn't. But if it did get up, or if it does, that's what they're going to be doing. Oh, you got to have evidence. You got to prove it to the standard of beyond reasonable doubt, or we just get away with what we want. You can't prove nothing. That's Tom's approach. Anyway, I think some of the questions might be relating to this Referendum Machinery Provisions Amendment Bill. Started out in 2022, but only got passed in March 2023. There's a lot to it. I could do a 2-hour video on it, but I'm just going to do a quick play of it's going, don't! There's enough information that you don't need to. You just need to show a couple of things when it wins the argument. So that's all I'm going to show here. I said at the start, it's an interim video, so don't worry about that red dot with the S7. Don't be distracted by that. So anyway, here we go. So this is a explanatory memorandum. Now, they got holding a referendum during an emergency. That's what I've written there. Now, this is number .22, contingency measures. So the bill engages an article of the United Nations Human Rights Charter, because, as we know, in emergencies, you get locked down and all your rights get taken away. Well, apparently, if there's an remember they had to halt the pandemic emergency in the legislation. They still talked about it, but legally they had to hold it so they could hold the election. Well, they want to hold this referendum even if there's an emergency declared, because these contingency measures, and you know what happens during an emergency, they lock people up for 2 weeks in a freaking building, for God's sake, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. They do anything they want. So anyway, it'll enable the Electoral Commissioner, that's trusted Tom, our good friend Tom, when a Commonwealth emergency declaration is in force, and they can declare it without even publishing it. Some of the, depending on the emergency, but anyway, they have to let us know, because they're going to have to change things. So, Electoral Commissioner, trusted Tom, is satisfied on reasonable grounds the emergency declaration rights would interfere with the conduct of a referendum in a geographical area. So it can just be in a state. That's where the no vote's going really well. Maybe those states might have suddenly an emergency declared on them. So the amendment said so they're not going to call off the referendum if there's an emergency. I mean, what kind of emergency are they going to run? Because my prediction is there's not going to be a no pamphlet, and there's going to be an emergency. In a recent video I put up, there's some reason, I have to look over my old videos, there's a reason why I think one's coming. But anyway, round of voice is going to be. The amendments are designed to ensure voters and scrutineers and campaigners can safely participate in the referendum. What if there's a fire? What if there's a nuclear bombs going off? That'd be an emergency. Well, they're still going to go ahead with this. Doesn't matter. Because, safety is the most important thing. But the Commission will ensure your safety. Like they did during, protected us from the COVID virus. Cold and flu, stopped us getting the sniffles. Now, the Commish can specify the manner in which these activities are to be conducted. Do you want someone who is really concerned? He seems like a bit of a nervous Nelly to me in an emergency situation. He might want to do something rash. Because just some social media posts, they've got him really greatly worried, greatly concerned. So throw an emergency at him. He's going to be running around, bloody underpants on his head. Who knows what Tom's going to do? But apparently we've got to trust this guy. It's got a person in an emergency may apply for a postal vote. Oh, the old mail-ins. Oh, that's what happened over in the States. In an emergency area. What if the whole country's an emergency? And everyone does a postal vote? Boy. Oh, look, it's locked down. Everyone's locked down. Picture it. They locked everyone down. They locked down 4 million people over in Western Australia, or 3 million or whatever it is, the population of Perth. But one guy, a pizza delivery guy that wasn't sick. And it's not like masks and that, where you can just, I'm just not going to go along with that. They're just not going to have the voting booths open. They're going to force you to do a postal vote. Now, what if I were to tell you that this is a possibility? You're going to say no. So the name on the postal vote doesn't have to be correct. And the postal vote can be separate from the certificate. Now, the certificate, by putting them in the same envelope, what you're declaring there, it's like getting your name verified, ticked off on the registered voter list. They've got there, the postal vote can be separate from the certificate. You go, no, man, come on. Yeah, you got to be reasonable. Here it is in black and white. Big letters, Referendum Machinery Provisions Amendment Bill 2023, Schedule 1, Postal Voting. Referendum Machinery Provisions Act 1984, 71A. Postal votes not to be rejected in certain circumstances. Postal vote must not be rejected because the nay's wrong. They say a mistake in the spelling. They don't say because of a wrong nay. If the elector's intention is clear, try and fill out a tax form with misspelling your name. Try and apply for a loan, for 20 grand. Oh, yeah, that's not really my name. Does that matter? Yet apparently you can change the Constitution, the most important document in the land, with an incorrect name. And there it is, the second part. Postal vote is not inside the envelope bearing the postal vote certificate. So those more familiar than I am with it, I'm only guessing that that's how it works. Is people know postal rules a lot better than me. People come to my channel and other videos. So there's some significance. That's why they mentioned it here about, it doesn't matter if it's a certificate now if they're not together. So yeah, I think that's what that means. If anyone knows better, then correct me on it. All right, look, there's lots more to this. I'm going to pretty much end it now. I'll just finish off. Look, there's other amendments to this. One is that they can, even if there's not an emergency or whatever, there's an emergency in some areas but not others. Emergency the areas where the no votes go well. Now, what they do is they've introduced changes to the Act. Well, no, the Electoral Act, not this. This is the article's coming out. It's going to be so long. There's so much work. And what they state is that the changes are they can start to collect votes, but they say, well, we're not going to count them. But they're going to start taking votes from, because in that article they said, people were complaining about, people in Australia, one of the elections, recent ones, people were in cars driving off with votes. Well, where are you going with those? Well, there's nothing to see here now because at 4 p.m. people can start to drive off with the votes, and they're not going to count them though. So don't ask any questions. Temporary postal volunteers are just going to be jumping in their personal private conveyances with the votes. So that's what happened. I had a video. I wish I could find it again. And it was Aussie girls just going, where you going with that? It was kind of you. Anyway, but also what that does is it gives them an opportunity. They say they're not going to count it, but of course they're going to. That's the whole reason. Polling closes at 6 p.m. And what happened in the States was people were onto it because sometimes there was a week or two before everything was tallied up. We're getting all these mail-in votes because they had to count them all and to calculate the amount they needed to just win. Remember the headlines go, you just lost. We just won. People got suspicious. So what they're going to do is they're going to start counting them and start to work out exactly how they need to fudge the figures so that with the mail-ins, how many mail-ins they either need to, it's going to be the big one. For an emergency, they could just calculate, I was so close. Because the polls are showing they're being very, they're making out like the no's going to win. It's really difficult for the no to get up. That's why they got to cheat. There's no way, well, they're not saying what's in it. There's no way the majority of Australians in each state and numbers-wise would vote for something that they don't even know what the hell it is. I don't care how, and the headlines are going to be there was no pamphlet for the no campaign, and the yes just ran such a strong campaign. They'll be looking at each other. Karl Stefanovic, got up by 50.1 to 49.9. Oh, geez, just so close. Or that figures or whatever it is, they need to get over the line. Just got over 0.1%, but geez. And then look, I've got so many articles on who's behind it and that. So actually, I'll stop making this video. I'll have a break and then I'll get back to it. It's nearly 24 minutes. Everyone's still here. All right, that's it for this one.